Hi, this is Mike. I'm the Erudite DM here on YouTube as well as X and my website, which is eruditedm.com. You can check me out there. I post articles and links to videos and occasionally reviews of things other GMs or DMs are talking about. I also post some free content there and downloads, mainly for Shadowdark right now, because that's what I'm playing. I'm also playing Dark. So this video today is really just meant to be an introduction. I'm testing out some of the technology, the struggles we all go through, and it's probably going to sound a little like crap, but bear with me and I will get microphones and settings improved and lighting and so forth. But the thing you need to know now is I've been playing D&D since 1977, the same year that I received the Lord of the Rings trilogy in paperback. I was in the 5th grade. And was reading all about Lord of the Rings and that first part of Fellowship where you're reading about the halflings and so forth, the hobbits. I hadn't read The Hobbit yet. And a month or two later, I'm skateboarding with my cousin and some friends, and the older guys who were much better than we were, frankly, they had a half pipe in their backyard. For those of you who know what that was, built out of plywood, and it was really cool. It sucked. Anyway, they said, hey, let's go play D&D. Let's go inside and take a break. It's hot. So like, okay, we follow along. And they set us all around the kitchen table. They get out grid paper. And I remember there was this blue book with this dragon on the front. And they had these goofy dice. And I'm thinking, what the heck is this? So we start playing, and there's a dungeon map. And one guy is describing this game to us. And I think I was a hireling. They threw me in temporarily. And I think I had a bow and a sword. But I was basically a halfling, which may have still been called a hobbit at that time. I don't remember. But so I got to follow along, and I instantly jumped into the immersion. And imagine you're in a dungeon, and it's a dark hallway, and these skeletons come out and attack. You know, what does everybody do? Where are you? And man, I was just caught up in the game right away. This was my jam. I loved it. And it was, again, happening at the same time I was reading a similar story about dragons and hobbits and elves and orcs and goblins and so forth. So just perfect timing. So I started playing, and a little bit after that, somehow I might have gotten the book. The older guy may have decided he didn't want to play anymore. Whatever. I got some dice, and I got the Blue Holmes edition of D&D and started playing there. Then I got a couple of friends and neighbors from our neighborhood to try the game out, and we were just making it up as we go. We didn't have DM advice. We obviously no internet. There's no YouTube. There's no place to go run and find the best ways to make all this happen. So we were just making it up as we go, which you'll hear over and over again when you hear old gray-haired grognards on YouTube talking about that. So that led quickly to finding the AD&D books, now called First Edition, 1E. And so you can probably see some of those on that rack behind me there. I think I've got Deities and Demigods and the original Dungeon Master's Guide and Player's Handbook and so forth, and a couple of the other old books. And they're still, I'll be honest, they're still fun to look through and play with. But I can tell you one thing, as this is an introduction about my channel, that it's probably not going to be. It's probably not going to be an exploration of different systems out there, or reviews of new systems and new game systems for role-playing games and TTRPGs. At least when we're talking about fantasy and sword and sorcery stuff. I have converted fully, at least for the near term. Not that I won't look at playing other games, but as far as reviewing them like a Ben Milton kind of thing, that's not my intention here. But I've converted all of my game playing in solo space and with friends and so forth where possible to this game, to Shadowdark. You've been hearing about it now from Kelsey Dion and the Arcane Library for the past 2 years. And if you start digging into it, you'll quickly learn that it's become a tremendous success, and that the gaming group, because of WotC and things that have happened with the D&D space, a lot of folks are looking for a simpler, easier, less politicized, less fractious game to get into. That's more the intention of the old school game that we played as kids. That's not to say that it's all just dungeon delving. I think Shadowdark offers a lot of opportunities for different kinds of play, and it gets a little unfairly tagged as a dungeon delving game only in some quarters. That's going to change, I think, with the second Kickstarter and the Western Reaches world setting, as well as the popularity of the Femoria world setting, I think, from Dungeon Damsel. And of course, all of the content and Shadowdark specific games and supplements that Chubby Funster, aka Greg Christopher, has put out. Terra Invictus, The Last Candle, as well as some of his other tools. I use a lot of them in my Solo Dark game as well. But a word on settings and what I like and preferences in Shadowdark. I tend to prefer a low fantasy setting where magic and wizardry and spells and things are mysterious for 99% of the people out there. Most people don't join an adventuring guild or club and go bebopping in and out of dungeons all the time, and that's where you spend 90% of your game world. In my world, they spend more of their time in the wilderness and traveling and in towns and villages and cities, and then with the occasional trip into a dungeon or to a dark, deep, deadly setting, because my feeling is you can only spend so much time there and then you are going to wind up dead. And I want to play it like the characters are real, and that's how they view their lives, and they, you know, they're going to sell them dearly, not cheaply. So anyway, my setting is very human centric. There are dwarves and elves and other races, but I'm not going to have a lot of Tabaxi and Dragonborn and things like that from 5e carried over into Shadowdark. I do play a 5e game. Not as often as I like, with some 30-ish nieces and nephews and family friends. They ask me to DM, and I enjoy it very much. But it's still with some of these caveats, right? It's not high fantasy. So anyway, that's just me. So getting back to what to Shadowdark is part of this introduction. It's really where I like playing right now, where I'm spending a lot of my time. I hope to do more of it with online friends, as well as in June I'll be at North Texas, up in Dallas. I'm down in Houston, but I've never been to North Texas, so I'm looking forward to playing Shadowdark and other games with friends and people that I've gotten to know in the community online, which has been, hey, thank you to everybody, because I have been welcomed in by a lot of folks who didn't know me from Adam, but I like to make comments on YouTube channels. I like to join in the fun, and you know, they always ask for this, and then they don't get much from the people who are listening, who just hopefully like and move on. So they asked, well, I give them the benefit of my thoughts, or whether they want it or not. And in most cases, it's very welcomed, and in some cases, they're surprised that somebody actually commented in depth and gave them some feedback on their Shadowdark or other game. So what else do I want to talk about in this introduction? A few seconds on my website. The website is going to be more of a blog. I am writing articles and posting images and links to other videos that I might be involved in. But I'm also writing a zine, and in that zine, the first one's just about wrapped up. I hope to have the first two done and ready for sale. They're 48, I think the first one's 48 pages, so these will be 50 to 60 pages. They'll include a one-shot adventure for you and your friends that you can play at the table and adapt any way you see fit. I have a few limited new classes that I'm experimenting with and adding. Some of the new classes for Shadowdark, my own personal feeling is they don't really need to be classes. They could probably just be NPC descriptions, right? I don't know that some people are going to play some of these really esoteric things. But the first class I developed is a Knight Lancer class, and I know there's other knights out there for Shadowdark, but one thing that I think is woefully lacking in Shadowdark, as well as most RPGs, I'll throw them all together, including D&D, are the prevalence of riding mounted travel. You know, why in the world would you be walking from town to town or hooking onto a caravan and riding in a wagon when you could, you know, secure your own mounts? After a couple of adventures, you've got enough money to spend the loot to buy horses, but you need to determine who already has writing ability, who has experience. These things just don't happen magically, pardon the pun. I've got a simple die roll system to decide that, hey, my character in their past and in their background is exposed to riding a horse and knows how to do that, or knows how to handle mules, or has been around teams of oxen and draft animals and so forth. How do we handle that in the game? With this Knight Lancer class, though, he or she is a specialist in the chivalric code that we pull in from Arthurian legend and from Middle Ages Europe, of course, Western Europe particularly. So there's a flavor for bringing a knight of that style into the game, who probably has a squire, who probably carries multiple lances of different sorts, bludgeoned for non-lethal combat, what we would call a field joust, where you encounter another knight and you talk for a while, you parley. Everything is not a let's rush to combat and kill each other. There are courtesies to be observed. And then you agree to 3 rounds of a joust, 3 tilts, and there's a scoring system and so forth. And how you would accumulate honor and legendary actions that are talked about, and a reputation within your world setting. Will that matter to dwarves or even elves or orcs and half orcs and gnomes and stuff? Maybe not. But in a human-centric setting like mine, there are parts of your world that you can block off for this type of play. And legends and lore and cities and so forth and factions. So there are jousting rules that go along. You can download those on my website for free right now, along with the Knight Lancer class. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling. I know this is an introduction. I've had a lot of things I've been thinking about, talking about in videos. Now, surprise, surprise, they're all spilling out in one video. Lucky you. I'll try to keep this brief. So I've told you about the zine. I've told you about the website. The second zine, by the way, is Saints of Shadowdark, which is going to introduce just what it sounds like. Some saints that work with some of the gods presented in the core rule book. But my friend Flint Fireforge, aka Paul Turner, has also got a great zine called Crit Happens. You should check that out. And Paul and I are going to talk, I think, on Tuesday night, which will be May 7th. I've got to get Restream set up, and we're going to chat a little bit about his Land of the Gods Hexcrawl style play that he set up, not just for Shadowdark. It's kind of OSR, but system agnostic. And I think he'll tell us all about it and how you can plug it into your system and into your campaign or setting. So don't miss that. I'll advertise it and put out some other promotions leading up to that. So anyway, I've rambled on a lot. I've told you about who I am, what I'm interested in. I didn't talk much about Solo Dark, but Solo Dark is where I'm spending a lot of time. I really prefer to play in person, IRL, but it's harder and harder to find people where I am in the suburbs of Houston that I can play with. So I'm playing more online, and that doesn't always work well. I am an old fart who just really, Roll20 even leaves me cold at times. Haven't tried Owlbear Rodeo or some of the other systems and the other VTTs, but would like to. So if you're interested in playing and you want to talk more about Shadowdark and maybe about playing Shadowdark, hey, leave something in the comments or send me something at eruditedm@gmail.com. eruditedm@gmail.com. Send me comments, send me a private note. Hey man, we have a game coming up. Might have a seat for you. Would like to talk to you about playing Shadowdark. That's where my focus is right now. So that's everything I wanted to say today. So do all the good things you do. Like and please subscribe to the channel. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I really don't. I want to write adventures. I want to write supplements. I want to produce content that makes GMs and players have fun at the table. And right now for Shadowdark, later on it may be something else. But I would like to talk with you, and I like the interplay with other folks. So please follow the channel and pass it on to your friends and tell them all about me. And I look forward to talking to you again really, really soon. Obviously, I have a lot to say. I'll try to organize it better for next time. Thanks so much for bearing this first introduction video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.